Hello, and welcome to another microbit tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be focusing on how to use the button modules as inputs for the microbit. For this tutorial, you need the following components. You need your BBC microbit, your microbit expansion board, your USB connector cable, several female to female wires. Again, these have the holes on both ends. And then for the rest of the activities in this mission, you'll need two of the button modules, the red and the blue, and also two of the LED modules, the red LED and the blue LED. We're going to go ahead and set the LEDs and one of the buttons aside for now. And we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing we need to do is to hook our microbit up to our expansion board, which you should have done before. Great. Now our microbit is ready to go. And now our goal is to wire this button to the microbit. Well, if you look closely at the button, we can see there's three pins. We have pin S, that's our signal pin. This will send a signal to the microbit, basically letting the microbit know if we've pushed the button or if we haven't pushed the button. We have the plus pin. We're going to be getting our high voltage to that pin, so from the red. And then we have the minus pin, that's our low voltage or the negative side of the battery. That's the one that will connect to the black pins. So let's go ahead and wire up our button. I'm going to take a red wire and connect it to the plus pin of the button. And then I'm going to connect this red wire. Oops, this is a male to female wire. Sorry about that. I'll take a red female to female wire, connect it to the plus pin of the button, and then I'll connect the other end to 3 volts, or one of these red pins. Next, I will take a black wire, female to female, and I'll connect it to the minus pin of the button. And remember, we're going to connect it to the negative side of the battery, so to speak, which is these black pins here, labeled ground, or GND. And then finally, we have this third pin here, labeled S. That's our signal pin. And again, that's sending information to and from the microbit, letting us know when we've pressed or haven't pressed the button. So I'm going to use this orange wire to connect the signal pin, and this time I think I'll connect it to pin 5. It should say P5/button A. That's one of these yellow pins up here. Look really carefully and make sure you're connecting it to the correct pin. And again, you can choose any of these yellow pins to connect a button to. This is just the one I coded to read the button. So our button's all wired to go. I've written some code, and you will write the same code, and it works. Okay. So we can tell our microbit is on, the expansion board's connected, and we can also tell our button has been connected because this red light is on. Now what we need to see is if the microbit's actually reading the button. So I'm going to go ahead and press this, and a check mark appears. Now this is really cool. If I hold down the button, notice that the check mark stays on the microbit. I could make this any image I want. I could make it an arrow, I could make it a smiley face. When I let go of the button, the microbit's no longer reading that, and it disappears. What's really powerful about this is, let's say I have my microbit over here, and then Maybe I want to design some kind of game show. I could have a button over here. I could wire another button over here. And then maybe whoever pushes their button first gets a point, or it's their turn to answer a question. You can do tons of different things with these, but go ahead, wire your own button, and then set up the make code that you'll find later on in the lesson, and see if you can get it to work. When you press the button, you should be able to see something appear on the microbit. And welcome to a make code tutorial. We're going to be learning how to write the make code to read the button that we just wired. So go to the microbit make code homepage and create a new project. We'll call this red button checkmark. Great. And what we're going to do in here is we're going to write a code so that the microbit looks at the pin that the button's hooked up to, and when that pin receives a signal, it'll show a check mark on the LEDs, and when the pin doesn't receive a signal, the LEDs on the microbit will be blank. I'm going to go ahead and delete this on start command because we want this code to run forever. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually create a variable. Let's click on the variables button. We will make a variable. I'm going to call this variable red button. Great. And I'm going to select this command. It says set red button to, remember a variable is a name that represents a number. So I want red button to represent a number. And the number I want it to represent is the state of the pin that the button is hooked up to. So I'm going to click on pins, digital read, and I'll change this to pin 5. So what this means is red button's a variable, and the microbit's going to look at pin 5. That's the pin the button's hooked up to. If there is no electricity being sent to that pin, it will read a 1. So red button would equal 1 in that case. Now, if I press the button, electricity is being sent to pin 5. Red button will actually be set to the number 0. Remember, 1 is on, 0 is off. So that's basically all we are doing is reading that pin. So let's create some scenarios, some if statements. I'll click on logic, grab this if statement. So if the button's pressed, then I want a check mark to show on the screen. So how do I tell it to look for when the button's pressed? I'm going to use this logic command here. Grab one of these comparison operators and put it in there. So I'm going to say if the button state is equal to 0, that means if the button's been pressed. So I need to grab the variable red button under variables. Sometimes you have to put the variable here and then it lets you drag it in. So remember, if red button equals 0, that means I'm pushing the button. Then let's make something show on the screen. I'll show an icon. Let's do a check mark. Great. Now, otherwise, else, what should happen? I just want this screen to go blank. So I'll do basic clear screen. Pretty simple code. If the red button, so here's how it works. The variable red button is either a 1 or a 0 based on pin 5. If pin 5 is a 0, that means the button's being pressed. We'll show a check mark. If pin 5 is not 0, will clear the screen. Go ahead and download this code to your microbit and see how it works with your own button.